The most important skills and attitudes that you need to be a good disability support worker, a lot of them are, at the end of the day, are fairly basic. Really it requires a lot of common sense. You have to be very patient, you have to be very open-minded to other people's opinions and views. You need to be very focused on the fact that at the end of the day you are an advocate for a client. It's absolutely vital that you function well as a member of a team where you're open to each other's opinions, criticisms, whatever.
The role isn't about fulfilling your own needs. I think that the most important thing is about empowering people and giving them the power to have as much choice and decision making as possible in their life.
Another one of important skills would be, I'd say, active support, letting independence, allowing the people you work with to be as independent as possible, not to take over.
Each client is an individual, and the skills you need is to be flexible and fit into a client's needs. And all we're doing as a support worker is to make sure that they have a free and independent life.
Just seeing kind of things happen every day when like different achievements happen, like a smile on a client's face or achieving something for the first time which they haven't achieved, that's just the best thing. Or even kind of like going on a holiday with somebody who's never been on a holiday in their life or something like that. That's just really important. So from all those angles, it's really fulfilling. Sometimes when the lack of staff teamwork gets in the way of what you're supposed to be doing, and that's working to meet the goals of the clients and the clients' needs.
It's not the best paid job, of course, but it's fulfilling and rewarding. If your heart is in it, you'll get the contentment out of assisting another human being. The flexibility of the hours also is a positive. It's very easy to overstep boundaries, and if you're not aware of what the boundaries are, and there's a very fine line, you can't overstep boundaries. You can get stressed because you've overstepped the boundaries and got too involved with the client's lifestyle. Also, as a disability support worker, we need to be open to the different cultures. Where things like health and safety issues come in, I don't think there needs to be any real change to adapt to a culture.
As a support worker, you need to be aware of such things as people's religious beliefs and respect those, and ensure that if that client's wanting to practice basically that religion, that you take steps to basically do that, even though your beliefs may be different, because you have to remember the fact that you're in a workplace, and that can often involve a lot of the time as a support worker you organising an interpreter to come in on those meetings, and that's important. If not an interpreter, sometimes what's also good is a family member who can speak very good English as well, but also basically will speak a couple of languages.
There's been situations where, parents have come over and said, oh, this medication is really good for my daughter, and you're like, well, I'm sorry, it's got your name on it, I really can't accept it, and trying then to, show them awareness of my duty of care to their daughter, and, you just can't do it. We've got, laws that we have to abide by, and those have been a challenge. I think it's different for every person, every situation. I have the ability to switch off when I go home. Issues that may upset you to do with staff, if a client's ill, or like we had a death years ago here at the house, and that was quite stressful. And those things, the organisation provides debriefing on, things like that.
Managing stress and remaining positive is very important for a support worker working in any setting. It's important really that you get a balance between your work and your home life. Managing that stress, a lot of things can be done to help with that. I think a certain level of physical fitness is important. You need to have other interests outside of work, no matter what they may be, whether they be social interests, sporting interests, or whatever. Even if it's just spending time with your family, that's vital as well. A lot of incidents that occur at a workplace can be very, very stressful, and in that situation, you need to know You need to know when you need support as a worker, and you need to speak up about the fact that you are getting stressed, because if you don't, over a period of time, that stress can accumulate to the point where you may basically just leave your work. And over a period of time as well, if you are becoming more stressed, you're not going to be any good to the clients that you're assisting, and you're not going to be any good to the team you're working with.
Issues that I faced in working as a sole worker in the community, as indifferent to working in the house with other staff, would have to be things around personal space and people's private space in their own homes. I think in those situations it's really important to have some support from higher management so that you have some clear boundaries about what is and isn't acceptable or appropriate, and some clear guidelines as to what your objectives are in meeting that person and what you're hoping to achieve with them.
Could be issues of who the carer is answerable to, where the client may be requiring a certain sort of care or want something done in a particular way, and then the family member may come up and say, "Now we do it this way, or we've done it this way for so many years, so this is how we do it."
We all have our standards in our own home as to what we think is appropriate, what's clean, what's nice. And it's very hard as a worker not to inflict your opinions and views onto other people about, I mean, especially in the home where I work with deafblind people, people who are blind don't need you moving their stuff around. They need to know where it is.
There are a few issues. It's important to remember that it is their home, that you are the worker coming into their home. Yep. You don't take over. Other issues that you face is families expect you to do things for them also. You know, situations have occurred where you might drop off the client to visit their family and they'll say to you, "Can you fill this form out for me?" Or, you know, "Can you write this cheque out for me? Can you pay this bill for me? Can you take me up the road to the shops?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
How flexible are you then?
It's difficult because, you know, you do want to help families, but your role is actually to care for their child.
Privacy and confidentiality is a huge issue in the workplace and when you're doing your role as a support worker. In a house setting, for example, it can come down to a basic thing in relation to privacy, such as making sure that you assist someone to close the door behind them and they have privacy in their own room, or privacy kind of like if they're having a bath or a shower, that people don't walk in there. As a support worker, we need to know a fair bit about a client's history, but we don't necessarily need to know everything. And we certainly don't go communicating it to other people who work in a totally different setting. If you work in a day service or you work in a particular house, you don't go talking or gossiping to other people who work in another house or another day service about what a client's doing. If it's not relevant to them, you just don't do it, and that's just really important. It's also important as well that in relation to what you're writing about a client, if a client obviously can understand writing and whatever, that you really, where possible, you talk to them about what you're writing. It's important. So if you're writing stuff in a client's file notes, that they will understand, you need to go through it and explain it to that client. Because ultimately it's those clients' notes and they have every right to read those notes that you write about them. That's why the notes you write need to be professionally written. They can't be subjective, they need to be objective and factual.